Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? I'm hanging in. We're going to finish the Mastery of Destiny today. I finished the Pistis Sophia. I'm going to finish this book today so that I can concentrate on other things and other books, though I really enjoyed this book. Before I begin, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to my channel. And please consider sharing so other people can gain this wisdom. If you have ever gotten a light bulb, of an epiphany, a dot connected, a new book to explore, or a new author, please consider supporting my work. It helps me continue to do these videos, keep my lights on, and keep me fed. Because living in communism is always such a great, wonderful fact of life. So we're going to start off on the power of purpose. Dispersion is weakness. Concentration is power. Destruction is a scattering. Preservation, a uniting process. Things are useful and thoughts are powerful in the measure that their parts are strongly and intelligently concentrated. Purpose is highly concentrated thought. All the mental energies are directed to the attainment of an object, and the obstacles which intervene between the thinker and the object are, one after another, broken down and overcome. Purpose is the keystone in the temple of achievement. It binds and holds together in a complete whole that which would otherwise lie scattered and useless. Empty whims, ephemeral fancies, vague desires, and half-hearted resolutions have no place in purpose. In the sustained determination to accomplish, there is an invincible power which swallows up all inferior considerations and marches direct to victory. All successful men are men of purpose. They hold fast to an idea, a project, a plan, and will not let it go. They cherish it, brood upon it, tend and develop it. And when assailed by difficulties, they refuse to be beguiled into surrender. Indeed, the intensity of the purpose increases with the growing magnitude of obstacles encountered. The men who have molded the destinies of humanity have been men mighty of purpose, like the Roman laying his road. They have followed along a well-defined path and have refused to swerve aside, even when torture and death confront them. The great leaders of the race are the mental road makers, and mankind follows in the intellectual and spiritual paths which they have carved out and beaten. Great is the power of purpose. To know how great, let a man study it in the lives of those whose influence has shaped the ends of nations and directed the destinies of the world. In an Alexander, a Caesar, or a Napoleon, we see the power of purpose when it is directed in worldly and personal channels. In a Confucius, a Buddha, or a Christ, we perceive its vaster power when its course is along heavenly and impersonal paths. Purpose goes with intelligence. There are lesser and greater purposes according with degrees of intelligence. A great mind will always be great of purpose. A weak intelligence will be without purpose. A drifting mind argues a measure of undevelopment. What can resist an unshakable purpose? What can stand against it or turn it aside? Inert matter yields to a living force, and circumstances succumbs to the power of purpose. Truly, the man of unlawful purpose will, in achieving his ends, destroy himself, but the man of good and lawful purpose cannot fail. It only needs that he daily renew the fire and energy of his fixed resolve to consummate his object. The weak man who grieves because he is misunderstood will not greatly achieve. The vain man who steps aside from his resolve in order to please others and gain their approbation will not highly achieve. The double-minded man who thinks to comprise his purpose will fail. The man of a fixed purpose, who, whether misunderstanding, a foul accusation, or flatteries and fail promises rain upon him, does not yield a fraction of his resolve. Is the man of excellence in achievement, of success, greatness, power. Hindrances stimulate the man of purpose. Difficulties nerve him to renew exertion. Mistakes, losses, pains do not subdue him, and failures are steps in the ladder of success, for he is ever conscious of the certainty of final achievement. All things at last yield to this silent, irresistible, all-conquering energy of purpose. Quote, out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not whined nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. End quote. Very interesting. The joy of accomplishment. Joy is always the accomplishment of a task successfully accomplished, an undertaking completed, or a piece of work done. Always brings rest and satisfaction. When a man has done his duty, he is lighthearted and happy, says Emerson, and no matter how insignificant the task may appear, the doing of it faithfully and with whole-souled energy always results in cheerfulness and peace of mind. Of all miserable men, the shrieker is the most miserable. Thinking to find ease and happiness is in avoiding difficult duties and necessary tasks, which require the expenditure of labor and exertion. His mind is always uneasy and disturbed. He becomes burdened with an inward sense of shame and forfeits manliness and self-respect. He who will not work according to his faculty, let him perish according to his necessity, says Carlyle. And it is a moral law that the man who avoids duty and does not work to the full extent of his capacity does actually perish, first in his character and last in his body and circumstances. Life and action are synonymous, and immediately a man tries to escape exertion, either physical or mental, he has commenced to decay. On the other hand, the energetic increase in life by full exercise of their powers, by overcoming difficulties and bringing to completion tasks which call for the strenuous use of mind and muscle. How happy is a child when a school lesson long labored over is mastered at last. The athlete who has trained his body through long months or years of discipline and strain is richly blessed in his increased health and strength, and is met with the rejoicings of his friends when he carries home the prize from the field of contest. After many years of ungrudging toil, the heart of the scholar is gladdened with the advantages and powers which learning bestows. The businessman, grappling incessantly with difficulties and drawbacks, is amply repaid in the happy assurance of well-earned success, and the horticulturalist, vigorously contending with the stubborn soil, sits down at last to eat of the fruits of his labor. Every successful accomplishment, even in worldly things, is repaid with its own measure of joy, and its spiritual things, the joy which supervenes upon the perfection of purpose, ensure deep and abiding. Great is the heartfelt joy, albeit infallible, when after innumerable and apparently unsuccessful attempts, some ingrained fault of character is at last cast out to trouble its erstwhile victim, and the world no more. The striver after virtue He who is engaged in the holy task of building up a noble character tastes at every step of conquest over self, a joy which does not again leave him, but which becomes an integral part of his spiritual nature. All life is a struggle, both without and within. There are conditions against which men must contend. His very existence is a series of efforts and accomplishments, and his right to remain among men as a useful unit of humanity depends upon the measure of his capacity for wrestling successfully with the elements of nature without, or with the enemies of virtue and truth within. It is damned of man that he shall continue to strive after better things, after greater perfection, after higher and still higher achievement, and in accordance with the measure of his obedience to this demand, does the angel of joy wait upon his footsteps and minister unto him. For he who is anxious to learn, eager to know, and who puts forth efforts to accomplish, finds the joy with eternally sings at the heart of the universe. First in little things, then in greater, and then in greater still must man strive, until at last he is prepared to make the supreme effort and strive for the accomplishment of truth, succeeding in which he will realize the eternal joy. The price of life is effort. The acum of effort is accomplishment. The reward of accomplishment is joy. Blessed is the man who strives against his own selfishness. He will taste in his fullness the joy of accomplishment. Well, my friends, is the end. I know. Although this book is written in 1909, and we have to kind of remember that their way of their doing and their thinking back then is completely, utterly askewed to what is in our paradigm right now. Our world is more complicated in many ways than theirs. Theirs was complicated in different ways, but the perception and a lot of this stuff is accurate. Although a lot of things that are in our paradigm now are more infiltrated, might I say, and taken askewed, that the world is not fair, that man cannot just get up sometimes and, like for my instance, find a job because of limitations and things that were put into my path that, you know, takes time. Back then too, women were treated and looked at differently than men were. And you can see that in a lot of writing from that time frame, that they focus only on the man, not on the woman. The section on meditation is pretty good. And I mean, just about everything is on it. It's just, you got to just keep in mind that our times are different and you can't take it all to heart because things are more complicated. Things have changed in the paradigm. Systems have been pushed up against a large demographic of people that you can't necessarily go word to word with this and really take a lot to heart, because you can't. The system has been rigged. It was less rigged in those times. It was still rigged, but not to the extent it is today. You know, but I really enjoyed this book. It really brought out a lot of things that people really need to strive for and to look forward to, especially going into the new world. We might come into some time where we have to go back to simplicity and go back to these times, just not with the narrow-minded thinking. Everybody is here now, has a contribution to the planet, to the world, And whatever it may be, it might not be something that is a physical doing. It might be a mental doing. It might be a spiritual doing. So just keep that in mind. I know when I read old philosophy, a lot of that, like men, and what they should do and how they should act and what goes on, kind of tugs at me sometimes. But men can also mean man as in like human form. So I don't really take that too much in stride, but sometimes it creeps underneath me. It's really fun and interesting to read a lot of these books to see how things evolved from their time to now. And some things really have not ever changed. You should be putting effort into everything that you do. You should be putting your maximum effort into everything. You should be happy with what you do. And if you're not, you got to find things that will make you happy, that will earn you until the new world comes a financial backing, or at least be content in what you do. We need to find happiness. We need to come back into what do we want to do to be happy, not what ends will our means be met with whatever is given to us and handed to us. It's not making us happy if we're not happy in a 9-to-5 job at the local supermarket. Some people are very content and happy doing that. Some people aren't. They're just doing it to do it so they can get paid. What happens if you give that person their full potential of doing whatever they want to do and do it full force without limitations? The world would be a humongous differently place if we were to give everybody that ample opportunity to go full-fledged into what they do. If I had it my way, I'd be a full-time artist. I'd be doing this full-time. I wouldn't have to worry about a thing if my needs were met. I'd be creating artwork. I'd be painting all day. I wouldn't have to worry about supplies and how much they cost, or the books that I love to read and how much I can't find them on the internet and purchasing them. I wouldn't have to worry about it because all my needs would be met. So it's something that I hope that our new world that we're all trying to create, that we're all trying to move into, we can start having that conversation, because it all of this stuff that's in this book does apply, but unfairly. If we could do what is in us, that we were born to be the artist, born to be the musician, born to be the poet, born to be the financial leader. There are people who are super smart with amazing ideas and never get a crack at their ideas because it's who you know and how much money you have. It's all who's going to invest in my stuff. But what happens if those limitations are taken off the table and that person can really change the world with what they have? They're never given that opportunity because it's who you can get to invest in your work and see your work. And we have seen it. Some artists don't become famous until way after long that they're dead. Now their work is being put up in galleries and sold for multi-millions of dollars. Why? We're seeing a lot of that stuff happen, and that's just an example. Why wasn't it treasured and looked at in its highest light in its time frame when it was made, when that person was alive? Not after they're dead. What does that do for them? They're already ascending and whizzing and having fun upstairs, traversing space and time. We got to start thinking differently and shifting the mind frame that yes, we all want to work, we all want to put our best face forward and do these projects and do the things that make us happy, put forth the effort. We got to stop looking, in the new world, we have to stop accepting that life is just a slave run. These people had more time to think. They had time to sit and think, to sit in a chair and ponder the universe. They had time to go sit in meditation. They didn't have wild distractions at every moment's notice that something is distracting them. They didn't have that at those times. They had distractions nonetheless, but not like we have today. I really feel that when I read these books, I wish I'm sure I have lived in these time frames, but to bring back some of those old concepts, tweak them to modernize them, to bring it into this time frame and moving into our future. There's a lot to say when you want to have somebody be held in integrity and have a healthy lifestyle. It can't happen when there's so much going on and so much greed and so much that not everybody becomes famous and not everybody becomes a millionaire, but that's not what happiness and joy should be. Everybody should be living within the means. No one should be hungry. There's enough food in the world, even if they burn down all the places. By the way, they're getting rid of all the poisonous stuff. We all have potential. We all have something that we love to do, and we should be able to do it. And that would make the world a better place. We just have to start and stop allowing people to dictate to us what our potentials are and just do it, but not be afraid that we can't feed ourselves and put clothes on ourselves and have shelter. In the United States, we are told the pursuit of happiness. Well, who can pursue happiness when every time you try, the brick wall comes up and is put in your path? And even if you jump over the wall or get around it, there's still there shouldn't be obstacles. There should be debris, so you have some soul growth and learning. But they deliberately do that to a lot of people. You have to be in their game and play by their rules, which are not kosher and they're not good. So when we look at how do we restructure things after it falls, because it's going to fall, it's on the brink. We really have to think about what is best for society. We have a lot of children that's been very heavily mentally damaged, big time, in the last 4 years. The children of this world have been very heavily damaged by covering up their faces, by taking things they didn't ask, that they didn't want to take. There's a lot of children out there with a lot of debilitating issues. There's kids committing suicide. Why? Because they're not reaching their potential. Their dreams are being squashed before their very eyes. They're being told, you can't do that. You can't. This is one extra limitation on you. This is another limitation on you. Oh, mommy can't go to your graduation because she's not this. Come on. Do your research. And again, I'm not against anybody who's done that, but there are plenty of people who really physically can't do it. And there are plenty of people who have died because of it. way more than you would want to know. The BS has to stop, especially in some of the states with cities that are being run like dictatorships and communism. We really need to start waking up more people. More people need to understand. The evidence is out there. Everything is out there for your eyes to see. It's just a lot of people are choosing not to see it because they don't want to know that they're wrong. But guess what? That's a big soul growth journey that you need to take. You need to know that it's not about being right or wrong. It's about you were deceived. You were made to think certain ways, and now you have to undo it. And going through this book is a really good example of sitting in your silence, going into meditation, and going within. Knowing what happiness and pure joy really is, and knowing that when you do put the effort into something and you get your goal obtained, you're really happy and proud of yourself. And that is the best feeling in the world. There's a lot of gratitude that comes out of that. When I know for myself, when I get emails from people thanking me that they found me, you know, however which way they found me, that they connect with what I am saying. And they're very thankful. And that gives me a heart full of gratitude. And it makes me feel accomplished. It makes me feel joy that I was able to touch somebody, and somebody isn't sitting in by themselves in their house thinking the similar things that I do, and that they're all alone and they think they're crazy when they're not. No one's crazy. Even the people that are put on medication, they're not really that crazy. They just see the world in a different lens. The world needs to change. And when it is time, a lot of us will be the ones helping transition this world into a better place. But more of us need to get some of these concepts down, especially the ones about putting your effort into something, but put your effort into what you love, what your heart is telling you to do, not what society tells you you must do. Hopefully society catches up. Because if I could do my artwork and give this information and read books all day, I would do it without a heartbeat, knowing I had a house, knowing that I had plenty of food for me and my cats, knowing that I didn't have to worry. And I think that should be for everybody across the world. No one should, unless it's by choice, live in a third world squalor. No one should go hungry. No one should be poisoned. Everybody should live in peace. There's no reason to go and over petty stuff to take a life. You could do better. There's a lot going on in our world, and I want everybody to realize it's time to wake up. It's time to step into your sovereignty. And it's time to master your own destiny. And it might be hard. I'm trying to do my own. And it's not easy. It's extremely hard. When you have nothing to start out with, a foundation at zero, it's not easy in this time, in this day and age. People can do it. People can master it. But not everybody has the help and the guidance and the support of others to help them out. How are you going to be the one to help in your community? Think about it. But first, think about yourself and how you want to master your own destiny. And how can you take this book and apply some of its principles, not all of it, to yourself? So I hope you enjoyed this book series. I sure did. Really excited to get to read it. And I hope all of you have an amazing day. Sending each and every one of you love and light. Please be safe, be seen, and check out my other work. I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.